How's it going, guys? I got an important message. I I finally won. I finally fucking won. And I could not stop crying tears of joy just a moment ago. You know why? Because, well, I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna explain a lot. Okay. Um Everyone thinks, right, that their attention can be so easily manipulated. But the truth is that that's up to you. That's your own decision. You know what I mean? And like like how people take, certain spiritual herbs like anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be weed or psychedelics, even just like, like normal ones. Um anyways, like that's not even the point I'm getting at. What the point I'm getting at is, how people take those herbs, like, to like heal from their trauma, right? Like that's like what one of the main things that they're doing, right, is healing their trauma, right? And like what they try to tell you, right, is that um you become so interconnected, and you can feel so many things, right? Well, I'm here to tell you, right? I'm here to tell you that, you know, a lot of the stuff that they're saying about this shit is, kind of to try to control. Well, I want to say it's to try to control the way you think, but it's kind of deeper than that, because that is not actually what's going on here. But to expand on what I'm trying to say is that I truly feel like I won now. I didn't just take, psychedelics. I didn't just take like, just weed or something. That's not even why I'm saying that I won, right? Okay. That's not even why I'm saying I won. Why I'm saying I won is that like how people um like when they're very traumatized, like, they say that their emotions can be very easily manipulated, right? Well, it ties into like, the supposed rumor that, like when you take these certain herbs or whatever, it's enhancing, your connection to, like a whole bunch of other fucking people, or, a whole bunch of other spirits, or what have you, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that your connection to God is completely personal, like to you yourself. You know, you don't have to like, disperse it out, into other people, and then try to, regain like this sense of validation energy, like from other people. You know what I mean? Like the whole energy thing actually is an illusion from, it's just an illusion to begin with. You know what I mean? The whole energy dynamic thing is just an illusion to begin with. And, I'm gonna go even further on this topic and explain to you more about what I'm trying to say. Um, well, I mean, it's not completely fake, but, you know, from things that I've experienced in my life, like I have found out God to be love, right? Because it's the highest state of consciousness, right? Well, what happens in this world is that so many people, they're stuck in this, like, I have to keep, they don't even realize they're like, like like subconsciously like, oh, I have to dispense this, certain thing out of me, or it's just automatically coming out of me, and then, or I'm receiving this from someone else, right? Well, within love, that's true. But I'm here to tell you that the overarching picture, what I'm trying um to point at, right, is that for like a straight year, like, okay, so I've taken a lot of psychedelics, right? And well, I wouldn't say a lot, but I have taken psychedelics before, right? And I do occasionally smoke weed. I mean, sometimes I get in modes where I'm smoking a lot of weed, right? But anyways, um, so I had a lot of trauma, growing up, or you know, basically when I took psychedelics, like even if it really surfaced a lot of like, I mean, this was a while ago when I took it, like like years ago, right? Like the actual like stronger psychedelics, not like weed or something, right? Um, yeah, so that was a while ago, but what I'm trying to get at is that um like so I took that a while ago, and you know I've been on an amazing spiritual journey, and I ended up finding the perfect wife, right? After like I mean, it had nothing to do with the psychedelic itself. It just was a certain part of my life, right? Um, to where like I was growing a lot spiritually, right? And then I happened to meet like my actual soulmate, you know, and had a deep connection. But what happened was is like it was exactly how it was supposed to be and more. It was the best thing I've ever experienced. It is the best thing I've ever experienced. She gives me everything I need and more because she is really my soulmate. But you know, I didn't realize that like, until recently that, I was holding a lot of resentment in my heart to the point to where, um, I kept thinking people were so jealous because, of like how perfect the relationship is. Because, I mean, honestly, like it really is. You know what I mean? How perfect the connection really is. So, what that kind of thinking does to where you're thinking that um, people are jealous of you all the time, right? It kind of opens up like, this thing that you're not supposed to open up. You know what I mean? To where like that thing I talked about earlier, to where it's like you you somehow accidentally get to a state where like you feel like you're accidentally dispensing energy, whatnot, and like receiving and feeling all this energy from other people, when like I said earlier, it's really just you and God. It's really just you and God. I believe God to be love because it's the highest state of consciousness, like I said earlier. But the overarching point I'm trying to make is it's just you and God, actually, at the end of the day. And um, you know, here's one another of the main points I want to make is that like on YouTube, right? There's like these, you know, if you're a really spiritual couple, if you're a really spiritual couple, right? Like with whoever with your soulmate, like if you have your own soulmate and you happen to be a really spiritual couple, there is like a lot of interesting videos. I mean, also just if you're just a spiritual person in general, um, ones that will say chosen one. I mean, a lot of these are AI narrated, right? Or a lot of them will also say, or okay, so a lot of them will say that, right? And then there's other ones that just like those in general, like spiritual guru, type of people, right? I mean, there's even spiritual guru people that try to call out like, oh, don't listen to the spiritual gurus, and then so they try to have like their own like hierarchy here. But at the end of the day, like, for like a straight year, right? I was getting like, so sucked up into this shit. And like because me and my wife are so spiritual, like I was watching all these different, chosen ones videos or, this spiritual guru or whatever, right? And that's not to say that, there wasn't a lot of videos that had good things to say. But the problem was that what they were trying to play on the fact that some people hold a lot of resentment in their heart still, right? They're trying to play on the fact that some people still hold a lot of resentment in their heart because, like I said a moment ago, it's just you and God. There's nothing coming at you like and attacking you. You know what I mean? And it got to the point to where I started, misreading like a whole bunch of shit, like unconsciously without realizing it from my wife, because not only was I overwhelmed by work, but I was getting what these chosen ones, videos do is they're like, oh, this person, like that, they get you in a state to where you think you're feeling all these energies, right? And then they try to explain it to you. You know what I mean? The where like, oh, this person um is so shocked, and jealous because of blah blah blah. Just I mean it's a pretty poor example, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? You get the idea of what I'm trying to say here. Okay? And let's just continue this because I am really going to get this out of here because, like I said, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my fucking life now. Because you know what? I was able to finally fucking realize, after a straight year, because I got to the point to where, like I said, I started to misread my own wife, and then I'm like, wait a minute, it really hit me, after like an intense psychological fucking whatever the fuck thing I went through, to where I was like, I took a step back and I was just like, damn, look at what I did and what I was saying. It was all me saying that and thinking that, when in reality, like when I made that connection with my wife, I you know I didn't have to keep, holding on to certain things. Like, even if things happen to me and my wife, like, you know, we're perfect, but, like, even if things like had happened in the past, there's no reason. Well, first of all, there's no reason for me to keep holding on to stuff like that, right? But, you see the overarching point I'm trying to get to, where, like, they're trying to perpetuate all these narratives. And the same thing happens with politics, too. You know what I mean? It's like they want everyone to be like, like hyper focused, on politics. You know what I mean? And just so you're like, oh fuck, oh no, what does this person think about me? Oh fuck, oh no, what does this person think about me? Or I'm a believer of, all these energies. I feel all these energies, and politics is a thing too. Oh fuck, what is this person going to think of that, or whatever? like you're just like subconsciously or unconsciously doing that. But the truth of the matter is that I have the best wife in the world, and the amount, like the way that she makes me feel, like it, it's everything to me. Like she really is my universe. Like she is my purpose, and you know, to have like that quote unquote energy, taken away from me for so long, um, was crazy. But the truth is that it's all just a fucking illusion. All of that shit's a fucking illusion. It's all an illusion. It's all fake. Okay? You find the perfect person, and there's this one picture I like, right? That says, like, I'm trying to remember the exact wording, but it says something like, something about like you, oh yeah, like the relationship between you and your partner is like not a community project. Like the relationship between you and your partner is not a community project, right? You could even say it as like, the relationship between you and God. It's not a community project. It's not a community project. You see what I'm saying? And that's why I've been crying so many tears, because, I finally got to the point to where I was like, I really felt like I fucked up and I felt fucking horrible, right? But I realized, wait, I took a step back for a second, and well, like, I realized, like, okay, this shit, between me and my wife, it's a real thing that's happening and is supposed to keep happening. I don't want to let, and I'm not gonna let, like, there's only love, like, separation, just from love, like, or just separation from God, like that is an illusion. To not see, like, whenever you're seeing things in the way of, like, like, why has God abandoned me type of way, right? Like that's always an illusion, right? And they say that the devil is a real thing, and that's a whole other topic to get into. But there's just one crucial thing you need to remember, right? And that's that, like, you know you don't have to participate in any of this. You know what I mean? You don't have to participate. You don't have to separate, like, the way you're feeling or thinking in, like, the way I described earlier, in that, like, oh, I'm dispensing energy, or oh, it can attract to me. A lot of this is manipulation, because they're like, a lot of these some of these spiritual gurus are like, oh, how to you know like how to get them on that, attraction, like, abundance frequency, where you know everything's flowing to you. But a lot of people misunderstand that, or they try to make people understand that in the way of, like, oh yeah, you could still feel all this fucking shit, you know um well, you know what, I got the perfect soulmate, and you know um I kind of feel like I have life completely figured out now, and I'm probably like the happiest I've ever been before, to be quite honest. But that's all I had to share with you guys, at least for now. I might expand upon it more in a little bit, but peace.